This meeting is called to order at 7:31. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Schnitzer, Eisenberg.
Here.
Trustee Cassell McNally.
Here.
Trustee Robbins.
Here.
Trustee Mosier. Trustee Rubin. Here. We have a quorum.
Fabulous. Please join me all in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. As you can tell, we are back still downstairs. I believe it was in Marisha's reports that we were ghosted by our contractor. So we have a new contractor coming next Tuesday. So we are a little bit behind schedule. Unfortunately, we did find that it was not covered by our insurance, but it is not a catastrophic number either. So we will simply have to deal with having an older building. But nothing we did, just simply wear and tear on the building, sadly, and that's not covered. All right. So that's why we're downstairs. I don't think we have anyone up.
League of Women Voters. Yeah.
League of Women Voters has joined. In addition, on supervisors' reports, obviously a lot of our staff reports have covered the excitement that has been going around last month. I wanted to point out a few things. We are starting a new volunteer group for our pantry. As we can discuss later in the staff reports, we saw a huge uptick in seniors on lower no income coming to the pantry last week. And we believe that is because in reopening the pantry, we sent a letter out to everyone, including to the 2 subsidized housing units in Wilmette for seniors. And they sent it to everyone. And I think that means that we weren't reaching those people, and now we are. So it is not, a bad thing. It just involves a lot more effort, and we just weren't prepared for that. So let's do so. So this volunteers essentially will provide some of the hand-holding and guidance that some of the clients need. Because pantry is not just about the, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, but also a lot about the social interaction for some. And there is a good amount of talking involved. And also it's a way to assess if additional services are needed. So these volunteers will help us out with the pantry, provide that support, and then also help with the restocking, because we will need additional help on that as well now that we're seeing more visitors. The letter, of course, went out because we are now on virtual GA, and we wanted people to know the new system. So now, in addition to being able to client choice in the pantry itself, they now have a scanned card. Just like you're paying with your credit card, you scan your card in order so we can sign you in. No need to fill out that form every single time anymore. Yes, and no need for anyone to enter in that form every single time anymore. Certainly right now, there's a little bit of, it takes a little bit of time to get everybody set and print out the cards. But once it is all set, it'll be a lot more efficient and a lot more dignified. But yes, yeah.
If someone comes in that's new, they don't have a card, obviously.
They do fill out an application.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how long does it take to get the card?
That same time.
Yep.
Okay.
We put the information in visual GA, but we do have them fill out an application because we have to get their ID to prove that they live or work inside of the township. And it's just easier, and it's for privacy purposes, really, for us. We don't want to ask them their information, be entering it at the same time. But
Yeah.
visual GA is actually really quick when you just move through the application process. That setup behind you, that's all the visual GA setup. So we have the label printer, we give them the card, and that's it.
Yep. So at the end of the meeting, if you guys want to see a
Yeah.
sample, version of how that would go, we can show you. But yes, so you can see our highly technical "please stand here" sign. But yes, and then and a staff member still does help to sign people in, but it's a lot quicker. Yep. So that's been very exciting. So tell your friends to sign up for Pantry Pals. We'll have various time slots. We're hoping for people who can come on a weekly basis. You know, we're start with 6 weeks, I think specifically
6 weeks.
increments. Yes,
2 hours.
2 hours each. Yes, at our prime times. So theoretically, two different slots per day.
And I did want to say that we do have bread, milk, cheese, and yogurt now.
Yes, in response to that
Yay.
anonymous letter, we are trying it.
Excellent.
And I believe so far so good.
Yeah,
Do we have the refrigerator space?
So far so good.
Yeah. we've just been getting half gallons, so Brian assesses kind of what's going on. We have seen that influx of people, so we're just trying to figure it out. We are still waiting on our Costco card, but it is on the way for Brian to be able to kind of do his bigger shopping. So we kind of just do it based off what we think the need is for the week, but we don't know what that need is right now. But so far so good, and people do like that there's a choice. The pantry is really probably the best stock it's been even since before the pandemic. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
We are running through them quicker.
Quickly.
So
Yeah.
as you see in Julie's report, we are planning a number of drives this summer. In the hope that you'll be able to help us to publicize those. You know, we certainly budgeted based on previous years. We don't know if these numbers will stay at the levels they are, but if it means that we're meeting the need in a better way, then that's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
So, yes, Danielle.
And Gail, for the volunteers,
Mhm.
would this be appropriate for teenagers, or do you need to be a certain age to volunteer at the pantry?
That is a good question. I would see that some teams would have the emotional capacity for it. Yeah. We're asking people to contact Brian if they are interested. Mhm.
And I'm wondering too, if we're seeing an increase in the pantry just because of inflation and just how
Absolutely.
crazy
Mhm.
food prices are right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because of client choice, so because people can come back to the pantry now, and it's been like, it's been like 2.5 years since we closed the pantry for shopping. That's another reason, because people like the idea of shopping for themselves. So
Sure. Mhm.
a lot of our pantry list has started to come back.
Right.
Last weekend, this
Yeah.
week.
There's some that had dropped off.
Mhm.
But yes, and of course, the inflation not only impacts the clients, it does impact our budget, but we are continuing to watch that as well. Part of the joys and excitement that we had for Visual GA was that we are now eligible to sign up for the Greater Chicago Food Depository and piggyback on their wholesale items. So, Brian is getting us set up with that. So hopefully between Costco, Greater Food Chicago Depository, our increased top box, we will see considerable savings despite an uptick.
Greater Chicago Food Depository said that they're not accepting new people, but we have been trying to get onto their list for so long. The only problem was Visual GA. But I told Brian to keep trying because, right now, children are out of school for the summer. We always see an increased need in the summertime. So I told Brian to keep trying. There has to be something that can be done.
Right, we should be able to, you've
Yeah.
tried for so long.
Yeah.
List. Yes, so that's the pantry. We are, obviously with the amount of people coming in for the pantry and reopening passports coming up, which I'm sure you'll touch on. We are going to move up that new hire that we were going to do at the end of August. We'll try to hire them in July. So that'll get posted, God willing, tomorrow. So please help to spread the word on that, so that we can get some more assistance in here and get someone trained also on passports. Chamber of Commerce, Wilmette Winnetka Chamber of Commerce Wilmette Kenilworth Chamber of Commerce is a new executive director. I attended a breakfast with her last week. She seems excited and has, good vision for how government and private sector can continue to work together. Oh, yeah. And so we will continue to do that. And we are, of course, participating in the Wilmette Summer Sizzle, which is her main priority. coming forward, because that's right away. Hope you're all getting excited, but we have a spot, we're gonna be in Plaza Del Lago, where we're trying to get that moved to close to Jules. People can also use it as an opportunity to shop, yeah. HR functions are up and running with our third-party provider. People are now using Howard Simon. They can get their pay stub at any moment. They can check their balances now, which is very exciting. We did have to do some finagling to ensure that we are compliant with our own policies. Where there were issues with record keeping, we erred on the side of being more generous. So I think we are now up to compliance.
We are.
Yes, so we're moving forward.
And whoever's not
Mhm.
registered on Howard Simon needs to register, because that is how you get your paycheck stubs and stuff like that. And since we did the email migration, anybody who was using Rackspace, Rackspace doesn't exist
Update,
anymore
yeah.
for us.
Mhm.
So if you do need help setting up your email, Elliot, I know your email gets forwarded.
Yes, but I'm wondering why I would need, if I don't want to see, I don't really need to see I get it done
Then you're
at the
fine.
end of the year, so.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me to go on it.
It's likely unnecessary.
Yes.
Yes,
I mean, I can if you want me to, but I won't, this is decided on.
Well, your email gets forwarded, so
Oh,
you don't even
he's
have
saying
to.
about Howard, signing up for Howard Simon. He
Yes.
doesn't want to pay.
Oh,
stuff.
if you don't want to, you don't.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Trust that he's getting this money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you do see the check registers.
Yeah.
That does work
I
as
mean,
well.
it's one of the things that one of the automatic deposits you see on your monthly bank account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see a W-2 at the end of the year.
Right, it certainly matters more to a staff member who
Absolutely,
perhaps wants
absolutely.
to get a new apartment, you know? Yeah, absolutely. So, or check accrual on vacation that we as elected officials don't have. Great. All right, so I will, I'm skip accounting because James will talk about that in a sec. But very exciting is that I think we've almost got all of our online accounts. We keep finding online accounts.
Right.
So we're consolidating some of these, but yes,
Yeah.
it's been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think our auditors are in, as you saw in Larisha's report, and having the audit in a timely fashion. So it had traditionally always pushed it off until later in the summer, which had required us to every year ask for an extension from the state. Doing it in a timely fashion this year has therefore allowed us to get a handle on what we didn't know. So this has been very useful exercise. So forcing us to know what we didn't know and then find it. Kind of an unprecedented update is that we did get a check back from one of our agencies last week. JJ's List returned their grant money because they did not do the trainings that they had promised to do. So I certainly, we said we didn't expect it. We appreciate it. It is a recognition also that, as a township, we're not really, these aren't grants. We don't have a statutory authority to simply give away money. We have, essentially, these are contracts with our agencies to provide services. So I do appreciate that they, recognize that they did not fulfill their portion and provided that money back. We emphasize that we hope they will go back to their normal pre-pandemic levels of training, and then we'll increase their funds again. So I'm hopeful that will occur, and that we can continue supporting their work. It looks like you have a question, Elliot.
I don't. I'm
Okay.
just trying, okay, so which payment was this in terms of the fiscal year for them?
So this would have been it was a $10,000 grant we gave them last year.
Okay,
Yes,
and then this would have been the first payment on that grant?
it would have been the whole thing.
The whole
They
thing?
didn't do
Okay.
anything,
They didn't do, so they returned 3 payments?
the full amount.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. Yep. So, and I'm sure, the agency or would it be, no, it'd be Money Policy person.
Well, money
Yeah.
calls.
Probably, would appreciate that. A couple other agencies that have responded to the grant letters and the recommendations that we put in those letters. We did meet with Warming House. As Brian mentioned, the YO also responded, and I also met with the Career Resource Center. So it is great when agencies reach out to say that they are taking the feedback seriously and that they, intend to improve, or that they didn't understand the feedback and get additional information from Brian based on the agency's deliberations.
Career resources.
Hmm?
Why did career resources get back to you?
They wanted to increase the number of township participants. And we were brainstorming ways for that to work out. They got the impression that we weren't ecstatic with the numbers. And I would love to see them increase. So, yep.
And Yo was critical in our evaluation in some aspects of it.
Sure. Yes, they did.
They took some offense with regard to some of
Sure.
our observations.
So anybody else who's listening, can feel free to reach out. Happy to to meet with any agencies that wants to. But yes, we will be having our agency lunch in July, where we allow for essentially it's speed networking for agencies. But we'll have a lunch, and hopefully we will have it upstairs, and we will have a ceiling that is repaired. I think that's all. I know that Kate also participated in the TAC online conference, riveting. But it certainly answered a few of my questions about TAC, but yes, it was certain. If anybody has questions, I did request their financials. It's kind of hard to see on the Zoom, but I do have that information. But it is our umbrella agency for some of the groups that we do use a lot, like the assessors division, like the clerks division historically. And they do provide some educational events and programs. So please take advantage if we're, to stay members. I want to make it worth our while. And I did participate in Toys OMA advanced OMA program. All right, to financial report, James.
Good evening, everybody. So tonight we have a new format of the financial reports for you. And Supervisor, do you want me to share my screen to walk through?
Would be fabulous. And so that's behind you for everyone.
And is the able okay?
Let me know if I have,
I think you just need to enable me as the host.
got it. You should be set now.
All set.
If you're
Blow
having
this
trouble
up for
seeing,
everybody.
feel free to take a look on your paper version, but it's helpful for the Zoom and for those on Zoom to be able to see it as well.
Yeah, so we've completed our migration over to QuickBooks. I'm happy to announce we are setting up everything as mentioned for online access as well. So this should really make us really timely with our financial statements and hopefully provide really good transparency as we move forward. Again, the way this is laid out, we kind of look at our two funds. And again, we're 3 months into our fiscal year. So we're at 25% of the year, and we're just going to kind of take a look at the broad categories. So this is more of a high level summary to start. And then we get into the finite detail. And then we've also attached some bank reconciliations for you to approve. And we're almost all the way through gathering all the bank statements to be fully reconciled up through May 31. So just to point out a couple of things as we look kind of at our revenue summary at the top portion here, you can see we've got about 36% of our property taxes in from the county. I think most everyone knows that the next installment is going to be very late. So again, that's why we want to carry reserves. But yeah, they're saying now the bills might go out as late as December, which would mean collections into January. So again, that's something we're going to continue to monitor as we work our way through the fiscal year. Replacement taxes, again, is already kind of outperforming its budget. It's about 68,000 collected there. So we're 51% better than budget. Again, we've seen this kind of across the townships that we work for in terms of some increased revenue there. And remember, this is the business tax. So this comes in about every other month from the state of Illinois. And it's a tax on corporations, partnerships, and different commercial entities. Some smaller amounts for interest, some passport fees. Again, some of the process in terms of deposits, we're still working through to make sure our classifications are correct. But that'll be an ongoing process that will be continuing to make sure that we get these deposits into the correct accounts. But about 1.2 million to date on about a $3.3 million revenue budget. So you can see we're at about 38% in terms of the total budget. And then as we scroll down into some high-level expenditure categories, again, we try to mirror what the audit looks like in terms of their summaries. So then we can get some pretty good apples to apples when we look at comparatives. So again, you can kind of see on the right-hand side, we've got percentages here of what's been spent so far to date, and then by fund. And again, the by fund percentages are the ones that draw the flags in terms of the audit. And so these are the ones that we really want to watch. So again, you can see we're at 10% for the town, 15%. Again, we're very early on, and we know we have a lot of program or those agency payouts at the end of the year. But again, you can see where a lot of our categories are right at that 25% mark. Some are skewed a little bit higher depending on timing of payments. Other expenses, again, this is another area we're going to be looking into to make sure we've got our classifications correct. But again, about 390,000 spent in total on a 3.7 million operating budget. So you see you're at about 10% so far. Again, we've received that tax money, so we are in a surplus position of about 860,000 across both funds. And again, we've got good reserves here. We started with 1.6 million. We're at about 2.5 million in ending fund balance. And again, that's going to really help us this year, especially knowing that this second installment of Cook County taxes is going to be very late. As we go through the rest of this, it's always good to have some charts and graphs to easily see kind of what we're trying to represent with the numbers. So again, property taxes make up 94% of the revenue, placement tax 5%, passport fees about 1%. And as we look at our expenditures, personnel is about 39%. So that's the biggest slice of the pie there. Elected officials 3, agency programs 6, child care services 14, contractual 10, building town hall expenses about 9%, financial assistance 10, pantry about 6%. So this will continue as we go through the year to change depending on when some of these expenditures get paid out. Just another graph.
Expenditure number, James, is pre-first distribution of agencies, right? So we haven't had our first tranche. Okay.
Correct. And again, here, just another a nice visual just to kind of see how we're doing versus budget at 25% of the way through. You can see expenditures low, revenues high. That makes sense, just in the sense that we received that tax money. And again, we're staying on track in terms of our overall expenditures so far. And again, we're very early on in our fiscal year.
Yeah. Is the yellow portion on the expenditures for the 3-month period and the red for the entire year, or also for the
Yes.
same?
That's correct. I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have explained that better. Yes, the red is for the total year's budget, and the yellow is where we are year to date through May 31.
Great.
Okay. I'm not going to go through every line account. As you know, you've seen with your budget, you've got all your line accounts that make up all the different revenue and expenditure categories. But again, these are going to be broken out for you to show you in the summary at the high level. And then as we kind of peel the onion here, you can kind of go through and see what we spent across each individual line account. And then the nice thing is in QuickBooks, we can drill down on any of these year-to-date figures to see exactly what's been spent. Again, we've moved over May, and then going forward, we're going to have really nice detail in terms of all of this now being processed within QuickBooks. So I'm not going to go through each line account. Obviously, there's a lot here. But again, that 860 in surplus, you can see down here in net income. Then we provided kind of this is a bank account balance workup. And again, here we've got all of our balances. These are book balances and then kind of where your current interest rates are. And you can see these have risen actually based on some of the Fed moves so far. The Fed's going to be moving again very soon. That should help us in terms of interest rates. I know BMO came out and said that we did get an increase there. So again, most of these have been reconciled. We were waiting on a GA account to go live online, and it just happened. So I'll be reconciling that for May. But again, this account mainly just earns interest, so we should not be too far off in terms of our reconciliation. 2.8 million again at the bank, pretty close to that fund balance of 2.5 that we talked about earlier. Other than that, we're going to put in here for you your reconciliation summaries on each bank account, so you can kind of see this is the summary here. Kind of what's coming in, what's going out of each account, and then it will break it out for you in more detail so you can see what's been cleared. Our payroll obviously coming through from Howard Simon now. That'll be a journal entry, so that's why it says pay RJE. But again, we can provide for you those detailed reports from Howard Simon. But again, this is just for, again, some further transparency so you can see what's cleared, what's still outstanding or waiting to clear, and then what those ending balances are through the end of the month. And again, we have 4 accounts that we're showing tonight. We will have a 5th account, and then we're going to make sure that we get online with the rest as we move forward, just to make sure we have reconciliations for each bank account. But that concludes kind of my presentation. I'm going to hand this back over. And again, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Question. I was looking at the budget and I noticed on a project, township significance, it's called hot. I noticed that our house is in there, summer care is in there, and I don't think that that's where those belong. So that's why I was asking, how did you determine what things got in what category? And going further down, there are 4 more agencies that's kind of hanging there. So those are things to look at in terms of how you set up the programs in future reference. Our house is not a project of township significance. I don't think San Roque is either. And then I'm not sure we're categorizing Alliance for Early Childhood, Services of Glenview, Zachariah. I'm on page 6 of 8.
Right.
So I had those questions. And then my other point is, once again, I would just like to point out for the record that now all of our accounts are BMO accounts. And I think that is a bad precedent. I said it at numerous board meetings previously. We had a little bit of diversity. Now everything we have is in one bank. I don't think that's appropriate. I'd like to point that out as well. This is part of the presentation.
I will say that, thank goodness, that we had most of it at BMO. We still have account at Northern Trust, right? And we have one more at Northern Trust is the Angel Fund, by the way. So that's not included in this because it's not a governmental entity.
Not reflected.
It's not reflected in it. But thank goodness we had one person to deal with to find all these accounts. But yes, I appreciate the concern. We are discussing what to consolidate and what, if we need to then diversify our institutions. But first step is to probably take all of these and figure out how, why we have 7 accounts. So, yep.
That's fine. I just,
But yes,
I'm not
Yeah.
on the record.
so the one time that was probably for the best was right now, trying to find the accounts.
Okay.
But yes, and James, I'm happy to work with you on moving things around on the document. Because yes, it does appear on here that those agencies are listed under projects of township significance. I can see that they're all under 50. So if you go back to page 5, it says agency
yes.
programs. So it looks like projects of township significance was actually placed within agency programs. So we'll just work out together to break that one out. Yeah. A little confusing. But yes. Any other questions on the financials?
Gail, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask it here or at the end when we deal with the truck register issues, but I was just mentioning to Larisha that when I was looking at the check register, there are one, two, three, four check numbers that are kind of out of place, and one that was voided in another place. And I didn't see it reflected on the reconciliation detail, page 1 of the reconciliation detail. And so I didn't know if we wanted to
That's a good-
talk about this
yeah.
now, since we've got our
Yeah.
finance guy on the line, as it were.
James, if you wouldn't mind.
So James, specifically, the check numbers that I'm looking at, it looks like 1626 and then 1657, 8 and 9 are not reflected on the check register. And that there's check 1639 that appears in, the middle of ours, but then is voided later. And that's, we usually just list it as, when it's voided, I think. Or maybe I'm misremembering that. But my concern is with the missing checks, or the checks that the numbers are not reflected.
Yeah, so, in a transition like this is something we're gonna have to kind of go back and comb through, and we'll take a look if these checks were just spoiled and not used, and therefore didn't make the register, or if they're in the prior system and for whatever reason didn't make it over to QuickBooks. All the ones that say check on there were actually processed in Sage, which is the old program. So that's where some of the some of the work that we're going to do is going to be making sure that we've got all of the checks brought over from Sage. Where it starts to say bill payment check, you'll see the differentiation there. Those are processed in QuickBooks. So it looks like we had a 531 check run in QuickBooks. And you can kind of see those checks labeled bill payment check. So going forward, it'll all say bill payment check, because that's how we do the accrual basis of accounting in QuickBooks. But yes, it'll be something that we'll go back and look for and see if we can find based on those old registers in Sage.
Great.
All right, any other questions? And these reconciliations that are included was a suggestion that the auditors had made in the past that had not been implemented. And we are going to implement said change.
I have one question. On page 58 again, you have well, anyhow, with regard to the assessor's office, you just have it as one line item. And I was wondering if you would break it out for
But I noticed that too. It's still the entire new budget is there as a single line item, but for instance, salaries, obviously, since it went into effect, there would have been a payment at least exactly when it began for Len, and the salary amount is still a total staff salary amount. So there's been no movement of pieces of the general account that need to go into the assessor's budget.
So James, how does that work? At what point do we
Yes,
transfer the fee, the costs to the assessor's budget? Because as we see on page 2, we've only charged them $681 for the 3 months.
Yeah, so I think what we'll want to do is probably sit down and take a look at the budget, because the budget that we have is kind of what we base the chart of accounts off of. So if we need to input additional line accounts or make transfers, I mean, all the information that we have in terms of the chart of accounts was really based off the budget. So there may be additional breakdowns that we can easily put in to break out some of those line accounts, as mentioned, like the assessors. So I think we did have a line account for the assessor as an elected official that was separated out. But if we want to include like staff salaries for the assessor's staff, it would just have to be broken out within that one line item budget. So I think that's just some additional work we're going to have to look into, working with both of you to get that straightened out.
I arrange to do that at some point. I'm Jan Churchwell, the assessor, by the way.
Yeah, yes, of course. I think I'll probably send the budget and where the numbers came from back to the supervisor and administrator, and then they can direct me to where the budgets lie for the assessor in terms of the breakouts.
I think the issue is that we need to have a point, where it's charged back to the assessor's office. And I
Yes.
can't imagine that's gonna be every week, so either at the end of the month,
There will be
yeah.
regular payments.
Probably a monthly, yes, a monthly entry is probably best.
Need a regular monthly or periodic whenever statements are sent. I will need one for my office as well as one going to the township. I mean, there will need to be two separate accounts, I guess, from your perspective, one for the township itself and one for the assessor's office, as a function of the township, but with separate budget now.
Right, but it's a subparts of this line, right?
Yeah, that's fine, but I mean, in terms of.
You're saying a separate breakout for the assessor as a department for the town fund. I get,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand. Yep.
Yes,
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right, great. We'll talk about that. Yeah, so I sent him our line item budget, and if you recall, there's this asterisk that says see assessor's office.
Yes.
So we just didn't have that version to
Oh,
break it
okay.
out, right?
Okay.
But that should be up on our website. So we just have to break it out.
Yes, okay.
All right, thank you very much,
You're very welcome.
Madam Clerk.
So just a couple things. I did want to update everyone that I electronically filed the budget and appropriations ordinance. So that was all taken care of within the statutory timeframe. Task board appointments will be opening in about 2 weeks' time. Larisha takes them later in the week, so just about 2 weeks from now. And we've had the voicemail box indicating such. People are so urgent to get appointments that they'll leave a voicemail like, well, can I make the appointment right now for them? So they've been a little aggressive at times, a couple people. But I know the feeling because I was trying to get my kids renewed and I was working with the post office and there just are very few appointments out there. So there's definitely need, and I think people will be really excited that we're going to open again. And I just want to say we walked in the Memorial Day Parade for Wilmette, and it was really a cool thing. I hadn't been around since they've had that formal type of event other than just at the Village Hall. And the turnout, I was really pleased at how many people lined the parade route. So it was super good.
It was, the speaker was inspiring as well.
Yes, very much so.
And thank you to Kate and her family, who, and with Larisha, so we could be in two places at once. So well done.
Yes.
So get excited for 4th of July.
Yeah. And that's all.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 26th.
Excuse me, I have a small correction.
Well, first we need a motion, then we can have discussion.
Oh, so sorry, okay,
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
yes, please.
Give me just 1 second.
And so in the assessor's report, so there's a word missing.
Oh.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong place.
For the April one?
Well, I didn't know there was more than one. I still have the paper clip here. This is clearly, no, this is. What's it? Is there more than one set of minutes? in there?
Yeah, there's the May 10th.
Oh, it's June. I forgot. Sorry about that. Right, never mind.
Snuck up on
Let's
us.
move forward there a little bit farther. There we go. Into June, yes. Then just at the end of the second line, there's no days. There are just 3 to appeal.
Are we to June, in June, you said?
No, so this
We
is the
need a
May,
word.
this is the May 10th.
Yeah, the May 10th.
The
yeah.
minutes. It's. Yeah. Two.
There, no, page 2. It's on the top. I was looking
Of the
Oh, there
May.
we go.
Yeah.
Wait,
So it's halfway down the page, the assessor's report, the end of the
Got it.
second
The
line
end of the
should be
second
just
line.
3 and then add the word days.
So just need
Oh,
days
okay.
in there somewhere.
got it.
Oh.
Got it. Any additional discussion on April 26th minutes?
Yes, under Elliot Robbins peer jury, which is on page 4. I proposed some changes. There's a discussion that occurred, and after the word Northfield on the 3rd line, I think the rest of that line should be crossed out, and instead the words, which is why we have a nice pipeline of cases from Northfield, should be added.
Let me make sure I get this right. So after the word Northfield,
Cross out the next 4 words,
okay,
put a comma after Northfield, and add, which is why we have a nice pipeline of cases from Northfield.
and then continue on with,
And then on the 4th line, I would cross out the first 3 or the first 4 words. And right before the word Wilmette, I put in the village of Wilmette. I cross out the words police department. The village of Wilmette has started its own administrative program that I cross out the words is highly regarded. And I would add, might put referrals to us in conflict. It's the fact that Wilmette started its administrative program to help address juvenile offenses and maybe monetize those offenses from Wilmette that I believe, despite protestations from the police department to the contrary, I believe it might create a conflict because they're monetizing those offenses and not potentially sending those cases to us. So Brian and I met with, this goes beyond, this will be for
Yeah.
juries.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none. I
We're
will
just talking about the 26th.
We're
right
looking
now.
at the 26th. I'll call to question, which was to approve the 26th meeting minutes with the revisions to the peer jury section. And the revision, and no additional revisions. Yep. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, they are passed. We're now in line for a motion for to approve the May 10th, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, with the understanding that days will be added to the end of the second line of the assessor's report.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll now call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, May 10th meeting minutes are approved and shall be posted on our website. Certainly made the audit a lot easier this year that the minutes had been posted. To find all the minutes was key. All right, thank you for keeping everything up to date, making that a lot easier process. Jan Churchwell, assessor's report.
The news from the assessor's office is the same as it's been for the last several months. There is no news. The county assessor has yet to open any townships in the entire county. 38 of them, not open yet, nobody, nothing, for appeals. I was thinking about it this afternoon, actually, and even in 2020, with all the disruptions that happened in 2020, the schedule had got started on time because it was pre-shutdown, pre-pandemic, disruptions. So that for years, I've been here since 2014, and paying taxes in Cook County a lot longer than that. The cycle was pretty much that the assessor's office would open for appeal somewhere mid-late February, somewhere in there, and generally finish up more or less like a pregnancy about 9 months later, 8.5 to 9 months later. It was perfect timing. So it was always done within the calendar year for the assessor's portion of the cycle for the year of of the tax bills coming for the next year in question. As of last year, in 2021, the assessor didn't open anyone for appeals until April. He finished this April right around the time of the annual town meeting, in fact. Now here we are almost halfway through 2022 and nobody has spoken yet. And if the tax bills were 2 months late last year, with the 2 month later opening on his part, do the math and bump it forward. We're 4 months, full 4 months behind schedule. There is no way, depending, the assessor says, oh, the tax bills will be out by the end of the year. The board of review says, no, they won't. So, and they can't come out till the board of review is done.
Yeah.
So what he says doesn't really matter. If the board of review can't finish, the bills cannot be printed because the information isn't there yet. It's that simple.
To what do you attribute, if anything, the reason that the Board of Review is so behind?
The Board of Review is not behind. The Board of Review can't open until the assessor finishes any jurisdiction. They aren't allowed to begin. They got nothing to begin with.
So they're just all yelling at each other for everything.
The assessor is claiming that they, for some reason, that they could do more. They are saying we don't have more. There's no, it's like there's no more there. If we finished our appeals to the assessor, we finished, that is, our window closed on July 1st. We did not receive results until Christmas time, the middle of December. Those results have to be published. So the results are out, but they have to appear in our case, it's usually the Tribune Local. And then Nicole sent out an email last week about this Herald Tribune or whatever newspaper, which serves the same function for some of the western townships. Just there are publication there that has apparently a contract for that public notice function. Our public notice came out last Thursday in calendar 2021. We opened at the Board of Review on the first working day in 2022. They couldn't do it any faster. And that is the schedule, that's the law. The Board of Review cannot open until the notice has been published. Notice cannot be published until the assessor has certified the results. And the assessor is, just behind.
Sharon, is there any discussion, like from those municipal entities that maybe aren't as well reserved as we are, about the fact that this 4, 5, 6 month delay in getting revenue might really put them in trouble?
We haven't heard anything yet, and I don't know whether we will. Len and I have looked at, at the township situation and think that we're pretty well set with reserves. But some smaller, poorer jurisdictions, say, especially in the southern townships, which have tax rates of upwards of 25% in some cases, because their base is so ghastly that all the agencies must be funded. We have no idea whether they are going to have to, whether they will have the funds that they need to function, period. The villages, police forces, libraries, park districts, whatever the public agencies are. Hopefully everybody will be covered. Hopefully the county will be able, if needs be, to come up with ways to, stagger obligations, contractual obligations or something that I don't know.
So speaking of township officials of Cook County, I know you guys discussed this in the assessors division. Has there been a concerted voice to go to the assessor's office, the county assessor's office, and explain the detriment? Or even a letter?
As far as you can't get them, I think would be the answer to that. You could report to one of the chief deputy assessors, ask a question, what's going on? The answer is, we'll get back to you. We are not receiving information flat out as to what the delay is, what the delays are, and what might be the results.
But the county officials, the township officials in Cook County have attempted.
Our chairman, yes, and
Okay.
there have even been, there have been meetings to discuss things, but the information that comes back from it is no information. It's not useful. There is nothing coming out of the county assessor's office to explain or to deal with anybody's questions, really. At least not that we are hearing. Maybe James obviously was aware of the fact that the tax bills are going to be coming out late this year. So I would assume the financial agencies have, they have a different reporting stream that they get their information from. The information's the same, But, you know, they're in touch with different people to get their information. The people that we talk to in the assessor's office, they're not allowed to tell us much. I think it's just, you know, we're working on it and everything's fine.
Thank
So
you.
bottom line is, traditionally, we would get the bill in what month?
The tax bill?
Yes,
Yeah, the second tax bill came out in June, beginning of July, so
Tradition.
the date of August 1st.
and now they're talking about not till next year.
Possibly not until next year.
That's,
And you can be darn sure that Treasurer Pappas is going to get the first bill next year out on time at the end of January.
so,
Because she's not, that doesn't require any input from any other office, because that's just a working capital bill. So if, let us say that the second tax bills for this year are due, December 31st. And so the assessor says, oh, we got it done in the calendar there. 1 month later, you're gonna get another bill.
there's some people that if
That's
they don't
gonna be
budget
huge,
correctly, it's
yeah.
gonna be a huge charge. It's just a nightmare.
It is a nightmare, or it, and, I mean, and
Well,
we only mostly here, after all, have to deal with the residents, the industrial and commercial.
Sure.
Big accounts or towns that have large industrial and commercial bases, are going to be, they are the ones that are going to be feeling hit more, obviously, because they are the ones with the larger dollar amounts that are involved, so.
You know, this is making me think ahead that we may consider, you know, that we may be getting more applications for Angel Fund at, you know, kind of the first quarter next year because of this exact issue. It's something to kind of, you know, at least, you know, keep you know, in the back of our heads that this is a possibility.
I also think this is a good subject for you and Julie to collaborate on, to, as soon as possible, get something in the community, in our publication, to help our homeowners and budget appropriately and give them a sense of when we
That's a good
think,
idea.
you know, this is
Yeah.
good material, it's good,
Okay,
it's,
yes, will do.
it's good content for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Great.
thank you, very good thought.
Thank you
know,
for
I've
that
avoided doing it
disheartening
to a
report.
certain extent, because I don't want to raise alarms and scare people if it isn't necessary, but now halfway through the year,
Like
maybe,
we're-
maybe
it's
it's becoming necessary.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's like the water's rising,
Sure,
folks, and
sure,
maybe you need
exactly.
to know it.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna look,
Yeah.
you guys like, why didn't you give us this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
at a certain point it becomes
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Well, and we have our monthly meeting on Friday, so I will find out then what the current status is. There's no difference in terms of anything being open. There's no information there. We know that. But in terms of conversations about what might be done,
You know, it's
we
so
will be
interesting.
getting updates and I can let everybody know.
A lot of our homeowners, of course, depending on their mortgage arrangements, have that amount taken out each month. But a lot of people that don't have that arrangement could be scratching their heads and thinking, it seems like we have a little more cash right now. They forgot about it,
Yeah.
literally, and then they're gonna be hit, boom, boom. I think we need to get out in the open and let them know.
Yes, good idea. Yeah, and we had, you know, we had talked about that earlier, that Len and I, we talked about earlier in the year, and had thought, well, let's wait and see how bad it gets, but I really think we've reached a tipping point.
I think so.
So, it's bad.
Thank you, Jan. We've been presented with one new committee member of application for Mental Health Advisory Committee. I would now entertain a motion to approve the application of Patricia Guerra.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion?
he looks highly qualified.
Absolutely. And Winnetka. Any additional discussion? For those watching at home, you do not need an MBA, but we appreciate it. I'll now call the question. All those in favor of approving for Mental Health Advisory Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Just so you know, once we approve these in our meeting, the next day I always send out a letter. I welcome the person and they get integrated right away. The committees obviously aren't meeting this next month, but we're getting ready. So, and as Brian had pointed out, we are looking for a few more members. We're almost full, but do keep an eye open for those who are interested in serving their community. Our committee liaison reports. Kate, mental health.
So we had, as I'm sure it's gonna be oft repeated, we had our last meeting for the cycle until September. Earlier, I think it was just last week. And I unfortunately was not able to attend. But we thank the members who are rolling off and are looking forward to welcoming some new members.
Absolutely. Agency oversight, Danielle.
Yeah, so we had our meeting on May 25th, and we need to elect a new chair. So that election will happen in June. So we do have one more meeting. And then there was a liaison report from the volunteer center. So just to highlight some of the things that were reported. The MLK celebration had to switch to remote. They said that the younger board members have really stepped up, which was great to hear. They are having some difficulty recruiting executive board members. They talked about some past events. In April, there was Earth Day, paper shredding event in May. They're having some issues with their website, so they're working on that. There was a recognition event at the Wilmette Theater, and it was a successful fundraiser. And I think that was it.
I participated in the MLK event that went semi-virtual, and it worked out really well. You picked up the kits, pre-made, set of kits. You did them at home with your children, and then you brought back the finished results. So it was really well done, considering we had a resurgence of COVID. We all felt safe, and we were able. It was a good teaching moment. So, money follows the person.
We had a meeting on May 26th. We have another one coming up at the end of this month. There were some liaison reports. Several people were not there, but there was new assignments. The most significant thing that came out of me, I thought, was the overlap of the committee, because we got into a whole discussion about the youth. And one of the gentlemen on the committee recommended that we amend our statement purpose with regards to youth, because it's not well defined. And I think that that's kind of the tip of the iceberg, because a couple things come to mind. First of all, the fact that I'm a money follows person, and all of the youth agencies are under your organization. I found that interesting. We got into the discussion. And then the fact that there's a focus on the youth is significant. Also in light of the fact that with regard to the funding levers, it was the youth organizations that were the issue. They were, by and large, those are the ones who were having issues with it. And so I just find that perhaps what I'm suggesting is we do something about our whole youth part of our township. I don't know what form that takes, but this gentleman in particular said, start by restating your purpose. So for what it's worth, that was as much of the discussion as anything related to money follows the person.
Absolutely, that's a good point. That actually brings up a point that after the warming house discussion, where we met and discussed how the guidelines going forward could impact their funding. I did offer to set up an intergovernmental meeting with Warming House for Wilmette to decide, to see if there was a better home for that particular agency. So I do sit on the Wilmette Intergovernmental Committee. We had our recent meeting on sustainability issues, but the meeting in the fall will be about youth issues, and that'll be an opportunity for us to see, where this an important population should and can be served best.
Yeah, it's even in my history, it's changed dramatically. When I first started, there was a youth committee.
Right.
And there were youth members on the board. They were not voting members, but part of the board. And now we're analyzing whether or not
these agencies have got viability at base. So
Absolutely.
we need to put some effort into it.
In his comments and your comments, the gentleman's comments and your comments, come in dovetail on another thing that's kind of been lurking, and we've kind of given it lip service. Agency oversight and money follows the person. I think a reorganization, I like youth and seniors, disability, mental health. Nobody knows what agency oversight means. Nobody knows what money follows the person means. And I think we have 4 trustees. We could actually have 4 committees potentially if things divide better in 4. It'll make life a lot easier because we'll have fewer, each committee will have fewer agencies. I mean, there's a possibility of creating 4 committees. You could have like youth, seniors, mental health, disabilities. There might be a little overlap, but I think that we could do some work on it. We've kind of talked about it over the last couple of years. I think we should revisit it.
So what I would propose is that similar to last summer, where we essentially took the chairs of each committee and we came through and worked on the guidelines together. I would propose having the same thing happen this summer during the month, during July, when we're not having our committees meet and discuss whether that committee of committees wants to propose a reorganization of the committees and just in a restatement of their missions.
And Supervisor Eisenberg, another thing that comes to mind is that we're also going to be introducing a new person into the equation. It's going to be spearheading it. And to the extent we can simplify things for that new individual, maybe with an additional committee or more clearly, more things broken up more, it might make life a lot easier for the transition.
Right.
I've always had a problem with what does agency oversight mean and what does money follow the person. And in terms of attracting talent and bringing on new committee members, it's a little confusing for them, especially. You're like, what does that mean? You know, so I think we can make things a little simpler potentially.
And Elliot, just to add to that, maybe the new person, should we hire them by mid and summer, maybe they're part of the conversation too, if they're ultimately going to be overseeing it. Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so we'll get moving on something like that. Yes, agency has always been one that where we have to figure out how do you rename that.
Yeah.
So it's because has become doesn't fit in mental health or money follows the person. But yes, acknowledge peer jury, Elliot.
Peer jury, we had two-hour training sessions last month in May. Both were well attended. We have a new crop of about 15, 16 jurors. New Trier High School and Loyola are both represented. We didn't have a new case for the May meeting, but we had 3 returns, and those 3 returns actually dovetailed with our second training session. So those jurors were actually able to participate in questioning the returnees, and they did a great job. So I'm really excited about the new crop of jurors that Brian has got. They seem to be ready to go. They're well trained, and I do think, dovetailing on what I earlier said, it is now time for Brian and I to meet with somebody, not in the police department we met, but at the administration level, and find out why we aren't getting cases, and just be honest with them and say we perceive that there may be a conflict here, and what can we do about it? How can we work together? There's no reason that Wilmette, our most populous suburb, shouldn't be sending us cases.
Yep.
Could Elliot come with you to your intergovernmental forum on youth services? Or
Of course. Well, anyone is it's an open, everyone can come. It is not subject to OMA because no board has enough to have required quorum, but it is publicly posted and publicly available and mail. So yes, of course. But yes, they're very careful to make sure that no one has a problem. Okay. Acknowledgement of staff reports. We have received staff reports from our Township Administrator, Louisa Pearson, Community Services Administrator, Brian Leverand, General Assistance Administrator, Jean Rosser, and an Outreach and Communications Director, Julie Quinsberger. You know, within a year, I'll get it. Does anyone want to discuss anything from the staff reports?
From Brian's report,
Mhm.
does in the second kind of at the end of the first section, does the YO understand the issue with the funding letter language? Is your understanding that they get it, or that they just wanted to
they did not reach out to me.
Oh,
which is
okay.
always interesting, because
Okay.
I signed it.
Right. It was
But,
Brian.
so Brian would be the one to ask
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
I will ask him at our meeting tomorrow, staff meeting tomorrow.
And
Of course, you're all welcome to come to.
Notwithstanding that he's not here, you know, that there are a number of people that deal with pantry clients. I'm wondering, I don't know the right way to administer this, but is there a way to essentially set a time limit for pantry visits such that people understand that they need to move through? And I don't know the right way that one would do that.
There are many obstacles to that. So language is one, age is two. We have a lot of people with mobility issues. Sometimes that's coupled with the language issue. And some people who are actually revisiting the pantry for the first time since before the pandemic started. Now, every person, we're kind of going over the rules with them and kind of familiarizing them. So we're hoping that it will move a little bit smoother. But honestly, you know, the pantry, Brian and I were speaking about it today. The pantry is not like a grocery store, because Brian was like, why don't people know what they kind of want when they come here? And I said, well, think about it. In a grocery store, you know, you're going to go there and everything that you need is going to be available.
Sure.
But in a pantry, it's not the same. It's kind of like based on donation. We stock it with what we tell you that is going to be on that list. But sometimes it's like overwhelming for people. You know, we've been packing bags for 2 years, so it's kind of been just like done for them. That would, the pantry pals, I think that would help. But we also need people who understand that, like, we have some people with mental health issues. We have some people who literally just don't understand us. One couple uses Google Translate with me, which is great. Because a lot of them just say, I don't speak English. So the next step from there for us is kind of like, you know, stifling, like, where do we go from here? To try to explain, you know, bring this card back every time. You can come every 2 weeks. Today I was writing dates down for people because they get kind of confused. Some of our elderly people come with their children, so that does help, because 9 times out of 10, those children speak English. There is a 15-minute shopping period. People really haven't gone past that, but it's just like the newness of the shopping for yourself again. There's, Julie and I were talking about reorganizing the way that it is on the sheet, because it's kind of backwards. You know, Brian explains the non-food stuff first, which is in the kitchen. And then when you go into the pantry, it's not in a sequential series, you know, so you're looking on the list, like, is this what I can get? It kind of checking it off. So that's stopping, you know, that's slowing the time down as well. But we are explaining every single time people come in here too. So that's taking a good 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes we get overlap. Sometimes, you know, people are impatient. I'm ready to go now. That's going to happen. But we're just trying to improve the efficiency. But since our staff is so small, that's another thing. It's kind of like a rat race all the time here now.
Well, you guys have been amazing with audit, with, you know, the reorganization, and with reopening and the construction and all that. So, you know, hopefully we won't have this kind of storm again, but always, you know, if someone's going to guide us through the storm, might as well be.
When we get an administrative assistant, my issue right now is that I'm the first person that people see when they're here. So if I'm doing administrator stuff, can I stop you? Can I stop you? That's like the last 2 days, I haven't even left my desk. So it is honestly passports is giving me a little bit of anxiety, because that's like, that gets crazy. But we'll be past the audit, so hopefully that'll be okay. But my plan is to move into that office where people cannot see me, and put the other person here. But I do want to well-train that person, because you get asked every single question in the book when you're in that office. Sometimes I don't know the answers to the questions, and, you know, I can refer people. Some people just want us to look up information from them that have absolutely nothing to do with the township. I mean, we kind of get it all. In the summertime, we tend to be busy with people who literally just walk in here. So that partially goes into the pantry too. Sometimes when people donate, we gotta stop and explain, what do you need? Sometimes Brian might not be available. Julie's running, I'm running. It's just the culture of like having a small staff. It's not, lately, it's just been like crazy. The craziness since Diane left has not stopped. So we're working through it. I'm glad that people are shopping for themselves again and that we did visual GA because we've really been needed to do that for years. So we are making steps towards the right things. It's just rectifying and then moving forward, rectifying and then moving forward. So.
Absolutely. Anything else from the staff reports? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, new business, we have a new BMO Harris resolution. Finding additional, what's it called, accounts. This one is for the courier.
Is there a reason there isn't one for the Angel Fund?
The Angel Fund is at Northern Trust. So, and they haven't had us do something as similar. They've had one, a signer. But yeah, they didn't require this. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So all this is I changed it to a nonprofit.
So on the second page,
Mhm,
the second page of the packet,
mhm.
it's dated on the top as of 6/7. But in the first paragraph, it's the 14th.
Yep, because that's right now, right? 14th, that's what I did. Okay.
Are
so
you,
I'll change that to the 14th there on the top.
are you technically the president?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you recall, in the fall, in the winter, we passed our courier and our Angel Fund boards. And those have different titles. We had to go back and look through them. But yes, so this just allows us to finally have that online as well. So we actually know how much is in these accounts at any given moment. This is, courier account is mostly for stamps. That lets our courier go out at a nice cheap rate.
It has its own EIN number, so
Yeah.
that's the reason why it wasn't popping up on our regular bank accounts. And personally speaking, I know that we were talking about diversifying our banks, but for me, when I do bank deposits, I have to go to 2 or 3 places, so that's not always the easiest for, efficiency. So, right now, like Dale said, it is the easiest thing, but we are gonna consolidate some of the accounts because looking at it online is very confusing.
Sure.
But that is something that we're gonna work with the accounting firm on too, once we get through the audit. The audit is all this week. So that'll make it a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
The challenge, as Stefan pointed out, is balancing, minimalization and efficiency with financial prudence. And I'm wondering if we kind of reduce the number of funds and had half at Northern and half at BMO, would that be satisfactory?
Certainly better. But also, you don't need to have your active accounts necessarily. I mean, you could have some savings accounts, money market accounts.
Right.
Best returns these days are online accounts. I don't like them myself.
I'm sorry, on what kind?
Online.
Much higher returns on most of it, but just the idea that we do something to show we're acting in good faith and being reasonably prudent in our investment. And I appreciate completely that it's actually burdensome when you have multiple banks that you have to deal with different accounts. I get that. But yeah, Elliot, if we went 50-50 or something like that, you're getting a lot closer.
And I am actually meeting with Northfield and Niles for our semi-regular meeting, and we're discussing investment strategies. So, and obviously extremely conservative fashion. On the agenda.
Do you need a
there-
motion on that resolution?
Yeah. So I'll now move for the approval of the BMO Harris resolution regarding the courier Inc.
So moves.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes and hereby signing. Continuing business,
Do we have any update on any of the documents and records?
we do not. I just received a call asking me to call the Winnetka Police back. But they did not pick back up when I called back. Well, hopefully tomorrow, but that's all I know. Okay, yeah. But
Any unusual freedom of information requests that we should?
It's been silent.
Oh,
There's
good.
been none. So I haven't updated my email this week, so maybe there's. It's on my to-do.
It's because you handled them so well.
Yes, there you go.
Right.
I do think that the annual meeting kind of inspires people,
Yeah.
right?
There
Yeah.
was a hashtag by the one guy that was like a cookie gate, because
Yeah.
he was really upset about my cookies.
And I say, you can't create your own hashtag. It's not a thing. Okay. We are now in line for approval of claims.
I want to raise a point before I start with the wrap up. This month, and I called Trish about it, there's no payroll because we switched over the system. There's only the account for the township. It seems to me that we're getting to a point now where the approval of claims is kind of a fiction because we're only approving very limited number of actual expenditures we make because we don't approve GA things, we don't approve angel fund expenditures. So I don't know what the answer to it is, but it came to light when I realized that there were no payroll stubs to approve for this month. And apparently none in the foreseeable future potentially. But it really is a bigger question of what does approval of claims really mean, given that we also had a prior discussion when John was still around about the fact that checks were made out. We're really ratifying, we're not approving, we're
Right.
ratifying. So I just raised it as a point of order. I'm happy to put down today's information, but going forward, I don't know if approval of claims is either necessary or appropriate. I don't know.
Well, it's a statutory requirement.
Okay.
I do believe in, we have our handy dandy new documents. But I do believe that recurring expenditures such as payroll are not required to be a part of the approvals.
I'm going to speak to James because the way that it works in switching over to that new system, it's, you can see kind of everybody's deductions. Remember when I told you on the phone? So the way that Diane used to lay it out, it was in an Excel spreadsheet. So when I do the claims, I just drop the information into my template. But that wasn't feasible for that. It was okay for the town fund one. So it may be a good time to like revise how we're doing things because of the extent of James's financial report and actually showing us. And the auditor also said that for their purposes, when they do our next audit, it will be helpful because you're right, we don't do approval of claims for every single account that we have. So she said, is there some kind of sign off? And I said, yes, but she said, we don't actually have all of those like physical sign offs. So she was like, we can revise how, if you guys are going to revise it, then right now will probably be the time so that next year the audit is easy on that.
I was thinking we could do some kind of consent or not wait the other, go the other way, but something where we're on record that we approve things or ratify things, but not on an individual basis, because again, we're only ratifying a really small portion of our expenditure.
Yeah.
Given that,
Right.
I'll back off now. I will ask for approval of the town fund for the period of May 1st to May 31st, 2022. You have a check number 1624 through check number 1665 for a total of 148,343.68. There being two voids, one of which is check number 1624, as well as check number 1639, which I would also note based on prior discussion are out of order and not consecutive.
And I would just renew my note that we're 1626, 1657, 58, and 59 are not listed for the reasons discussed earlier.
So I would entertain a motion to amend the current motion to approve 160, the same motion as Stefan, but it's without 1626, 57, 58, and 59.
What I'm wondering is, are the dates here, the dates that these checks are actually paid, they're presented to the bank, or these the dates the checks are made?
They're the days, those are the dates that the checks are written.
Okay, the dates the checks are made. Okay, so then,
Because the accounting firm comes every Monday.
Yes.
so then the missing checks are really,
Yeah, but also we had a switch over in the accounting firm as well. One person left and another person came on. So he's still trying to get adjusted to the system as well, or how we do things here. So right now we're in, well, not a ton of voids, but we do have a lot of voids.
so my guess is that some of the missing numbers may be voids, they just need to indicate that on.
Yeah, I don't know
Is that
how
what
it
I'm seeing
drops.
it for?
Yeah, it used to drop from Sage. It would show you in the report, but in this, I think that I manually have to go in and do it. So I think it's something I'm going to review with James if we're going to keep on doing it this way. But as Stefan said, I mean, we might be able to revisit doing it a different way, but just, you know.
Is that a friendly amendment?
As amended.
Uh,
Unless you want to go through each one.
No.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Shouldn't that be a roll call?
Oh, please, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Supervisors, Mr. Eisenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Kasam McNally.
Yes.
Trustee Robbins.
Yes.
Trustee Mosier.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
It is approved. You have a cleaner copy. Thank you. That way. All right, we are now in line for a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Any, thank you. Any opposition? All those in favor, please say aye.